So I don't know if you've had a chance yet to watch the UFC countdown, but honestly, I've not been more hype about a fight after watching the countdown than I was after I watched the build up to Covington Masvidal, the footage that they have from when these guys were friends, when they were roommates, to now the situation breaking bad. This is an incredible story. I literally cannot wait for this week's main event.
Yeah, and all the back roll that they had just of these guys, this training footage, the behind the scenes footage before both of their fights as they're cornering each other. It was just too good to not make this fight. And if you're one of those people that thinks that it's all
conspiratorial,
staged, yeah, and these guys are working together, I can see where you might come up to that conclusion because of how tight these guys were. But if they did conspire to make this whole feud and it's all fabricated and fake, then they need to move directly into Hollywood after this, because they're selling this fight really well and their acting chops are really good if it is fake, because it feels to me like it could be something very real.
Yeah, I mean, both of these guys are saying the other one's leaving on a stretcher. You've got Colby Covington hanging out with Masvidal's baby mama, saying that he's going to help her pay the bills because Jorge's a deadbeat dad. You've got Jorge saying that his longtime coach, who helped Colby become the interim champion, got stiffed on his pay that he should have gotten for being in his corner. You've got Dan Lambert throwing both of them out of ATT, only to let Masvidal back in at some point. You've got Colby down the street at MMA Masters. I mean, you got one of them on a yacht going this way saying he's the king of Miami, and the other one on another super yacht going that way with a bunch of women saying he's the king of Miami. And I guess we're just going to have to find out who the real king of Miami is. It's a shame that this pay-per-view is not actually in Miami. That would be something truly amazing. But Colby is a 3-1 favorite here. Most people think that Colby Covington is going to be far too much to handle for Masvidal, and I can see why. You know, when you have a tenacious cardio machine that's got insane grappling like Colby has, those kinds of fighters tend to be favored over your diamond in the rough, powerful, gritty, but street fighter kind of vibe. And Jorge Masvidal, who's had a back-and-forth career, albeit a real resurgence later in his career, but it's been kind of a back-and-forth deal for Masvidal. Who you got in this one?
It's really hard to bet against a guy who has so much momentum and so much star power on him. And Jorge Masvidal has really come into his own lately after the Ben Askren thing, and we're just seeing him really kind of take shape as a new fighter. He's not the same guy he was when he was losing fights. In 2 fights he'd win, and then he'd lose 1, and then he'd win 3, and then he'd lose 1 or lose 2. That's not the Masvidal we're seeing anymore. He's really putting together a new style, and he's just as brutal and devastating with his power as he always was. But now he's putting it together with better disguises, better feints, better uses of offense, and clearly his defense is better as well. But Colby Covington is an absolute nightmare, and he is without a doubt the best 170-pound fighter on the planet that's not named Kamaru Usman. And Khamzat Chimaev still has some proving to do to prove that he's going to dethrone Colby in that spot. But until that happens, Colby Covington is the best guy in the world that's not the champion, and his gas tank is ridiculous. He's got more ways to win because he throws punches and bunches. He can go all night with anybody, and he's proven that time and time again, and his grappling is next level. And if you've watched some of the footage, I know you've seen the countdown. I'll be watching it tonight, but I can assume they've got a lot of that wrestling footage that they've had years and years of them literally in their rooms when they were roommates, fighting each other and grappling. And every time he got his hands on Jorge, he just grappled him right up to the ground, and there was really no getting up from there after that point. So I'm going to go with Colby Covington. It's 3-1 favorite, so it's not the best bet to make, but I just feel like Jorge Masvidal is going to be fighting with emotions, and I'm going to make my prediction based on the fact that this altercation, this feud is real, and that's going to be partially draining for both fighters. But the style that Jorge Masvidal comes into the cage with is a ferocious knockout style power and all that sort of, built up strength that he's going to try to, take this guy's head off, and that will zap your energy. And the one person you don't want to be standing across the cage from when you have a zapped gas tank is Colby Covington.
For
and
sure.
I think this fight's going late, and Colby Covington's going to really start to push on the gas later as the fight goes.
Yeah, I'm picking Colby too. But here's the thing: and in making this prediction, I really did go back and forth. I didn't pay attention to the 3-1 odds because I think Masvidal is the livest of dogs in this fight. Jorge Masvidal,
Gamebred.
He's Gamebred. I mean, the name says it all. One of the best fight names in all of MMA. Jorge Gamebred Masvidal, and the Kimbo Slice backyard B-roll was incredible in the build-up, by the way. But just to see how gritty and how tough he is. I think hand speed favors Masvidal. He's got crazy, quick, crisp punches. I think that game plan might actually favor Jorge Masvidal. Nobody gave him a chance against Ben Askren. Jorge Masvidal has this weird kind of thing where he can figure out what he needs to do early on to win a fight or to sway a fight or to start moving things in his direction and in his favor, just like he did against Ben Askren. He told Mike Brown, I'm going to start the fight with a flying knee and I'm going to knock him out. And Mike Brown, the head coach at ATT, laughed it off thinking that he was joking. And then a few minutes later, Ben Askren was being carried out of the cage. So Jorge Masvidal has a brilliant game plan. I think the team does favor Masvidal. I think ATT is a little bit more seasoned of a team than MMA Masters is. Although Colby has looked fantastic, I do question some of the game plan that they brought into the cage for the second fight against Kamaru Usman. But I do still think that Colby Covington is going to win this fight because of cardio, because of the grappling advantage. And I think barring Jorge really hurting him early or having some kind of crazy strike or maneuver planned that he remembers or he's kind of been conjuring up since they used to train back in the day, short of something like that, I think if this just turns into an MMA fight that's going to last a few rounds, I think skill for skill, Colby Covington is better in most places, with the exception of striking accuracy and hand speed, but I don't think that's going to be enough. And so I think Colby Covington is going to accumulate rounds and finish Jorge late on the ground via ground and pound, fourth round.
Yeah, and this fight feels to me like it's going to live up to the expectations that we've got of it. I don't think that these two are going to lay an egg. I do honestly want to assume that somebody's going to get finished, and it's either going to be a brutal knockout early for Masvidal or it's going to be a late finish for Covington. But honestly, I could see both of these guys being so hard to finish for either one that they just go all 5 rounds. We get every bit of this, and heck, we might even see a rematch at some point. Who knows? But I'm having a hard time picking against Colby on this one because what we've seen him do lately. And I think that Masvidal's chin is a little bit deteriorated after that last knockout.
Yeah,
he's been knocked out many times. Kamaru Usman put it on him, and who knows what you're like after you come back to the cage from a brutal knockout like that. It could be basically like the seal up of his fate. He could get cracked by Covington early, and that start to make him shoot and do crazy things that he wouldn't normally do. But I do like what you were saying about his creativity. Yeah. He's got one of the most creative minds in all of MMA, and it shows in the Ben Askren thing. And I know that seems like it's a lucky shot. There's the furthest thing from lucky. It's so calculated, and he knew exactly not only that Ben Askren was going to drop down and change levels, try to wrestle him, but which side his head was going to go down, which knee he needed to throw, how many steps he needed to take, all that stuff. And the mastermind of it all is that he didn't even tell his corner. He told his corner, but he didn't game plan it with them. Yeah. He's like, I'm going to surprise my corner just as much as I'm going to surprise the world and everybody in this arena. So I love that. That's a gangster move if I've ever seen one. And it comes from the most gangster person in the sport, Jorge Masvidal. But I think that we're going to see a rough and tumble fight. We're going to see these two guys land a lot. Masvidal's going to kick a lot because if you watch the Nate Diaz fight, he landed a lot of really good body kicks. And if you're going to try to hurt Colby Covington's gas tank, you got to start to tear up the body early and often. So we're going to see him go for that, but be careful with those kicks because a wrestler looks for a leg, and that's what's going to take this fight to the ground. And although Colby Covington loves to be a very entertaining fighter, he also does not want to lose this fight, and I think he's willing to take this fight to the ground and make it not boring, but a wrestling-heavy match just to make sure he gets his hand raised against his friend-turned-foe, Jorge Masvidal.
I think you're right. Guys, let us know in the comments. Nick and I are both picking Colby Covington to win this fight. We think skill for skill he matches up better, but you guys let us know in the comments. Does Masvidal, the master, the wizard, have something up his sleeve coming Colby's way on Saturday? Until the next one, have a wonderful day.
Peace.